have to tell you, it's a very good thing that I've got David sitting by my side. At the expense of sounding a little crazy, it's felt a little naked. Being here without you here, bro.
Yeah, well.
I'm not saying you're my clothes, but...
Yeah, thank you. And it's nice to see you too, Dave.
Hey, bro, lots of things are happening. We have a lot to talk about. So just that you know, David is being non-responsive right now because he is gathering information regarding things that are going on in Gaza right now as we speak. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. Did they get Sinwar?
We're not sure, but
we're not talking about Yahya, by the way. We're not talking about him.
Let's go into what's happening right now is very indicative about that.
Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, well, here's the thing. Rockets are being fired from Gaza right now towards Israel. From Gaza. We haven't seen any rockets from Gaza for a long time.
Yep.
That means something, and let's talk about what happened and what might be the connection to that.
Well, of course, and I will tell you, it means a lot. It's no small thing. It's a pretty significant situation that we're dealing with. So let's do this very quickly. Let's go through some of the super chats and the super stickers. By the way, I do want to say this with the super chats. You guys are incredible because you help us, especially when things happen, and you guys know what I'm talking about. So we just want to thank you for that support. Obviously, it's a blessing. Keep it coming. You guys are great. I'm going to read some of these very quickly. Oh, it's so hilarious. I think Brad has done all of them so far. Yes, Brad has done them all, which means I'm going to get myself in trouble reading some of his stuff. He says, first one, he says, last week, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey was arrested while storming an ICE facility. Amazing that what folks will do to get out of Newark. You guys have to understand the humor in that because anyway, this whole sanctuary city thing is getting crazy. Yes, Brother James, I'm already getting you in trouble. Yes, you are, Brad, and I knew that would be the case. Brad also says Bill Maher slammed anti-Israel protesters. It makes it painfully obvious Israel is in the right when even he can see it. Yes, that's right. And then story broke today that Joe Biden began discussing that he would have needed a wheelchair were he to win a second term. I might be wrong, but wheelchairs don't keep someone from saying stupid stuff. Yeah, you're right about that. I was about to make that kind of comment. I'm like, I'm in a mobility scooter a lot of the time. That doesn't make me stupid, does it, David?
No.
No, okay. All right.
You can scoot around and be smart.
Some people do consider me smart.
You can scoot around and be smart.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. Some people, I don't know. So there's that. And then Pookie, you're already chiming in. And thank you, by the way, so much. You've got a couple of them. You say, James David, sure, you have a lot to speak of. At least 4 hours. Cut that plane donation. The released hostage, obviously. Trump, Saudi Arabia prince, leaving out Bibi and Hamas. Yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff. All that stuff is kind of important. You're right, Pookie. He says James and David I think it says dislocated, now attached at the hip. Let's rock. We're going to have fun. Look, we got a lot to talk about. Bro, where do you want to start? Because I quite frankly, I'm not so sure I even know where to start, to be honest.
Okay, I'm going to give a, how do you say, an umbrella term and see what we can. There's a lot of feeling, a lot of talk, and a lot of rhetoric that President Trump has thrown Israel under the bus.
Yeah.
And what we got to talk about, I think, today is well, we're going to raise, I think, more questions and answers. We'll talk about what we do know about what's actually happening, but why I don't think that's true.
Yeah, me and you are going to agree on this one. I don't think that's true either. I don't think the president is even coming close to throwing Israel under the bus.
But there is a difference in the way he is running things, and this is something that we need to talk about. There are, the latest change is that the Houthis fired a rocket about 3 hours ago from
in Gaza.
Yemen. Yemen.
Oh, from Yemen.
From Yemen. It went over President Trump's head.
The
Houthis in Yemen fired a ballistic missile, and if you look at the
It
route,
went over Trump's head?
It went over Trump's head.
Forgive me for saying this. Thank you, Jesus.
Yep.
Because at least the president now is going to respond with fury like you can't even believe.
Well, we're not sure, and we'll see what that's going to do. But
how in the world can he be in Saudi Arabia right now, watching a sworn enemy of Saudi Arabia fire a missile over their head? I bet you there's people in the Defense Department that are getting fired right now.
Well, that's very, very interesting. It was intercepted, but Israel didn't intercept it over Saudi Arabia. The Israeli officials said, we waited until it came into Israeli airspace
Very smart.
in order to intercept it, because we were afraid that if we intercepted it in Saudi Arabia, the debris might fall somewhere that we're not planning for it to fall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they would get blamed for it.
There you go.
Bart Jun, amen to you. You say James is a smart little Mexican man from Egypt.
The problem is the little, and the problem is the Mexican.
Yeah,
I mean, but besides that, everything.
Yeah,
is
I'm
okay.
not small, and I'm not Mexican, but that's okay. It works. I sound like I'm Mexican sometimes.
Well, yeah.
Thank God I don't sound like I'm from Tijuana, because if I sounded like I was Tijuana, then you wouldn't know I was a pastor.
By the way, I have to say I've been back for a couple of days now, and I haven't had any Mexican food. So I mean,
bro, I'm telling you, step outside right now.
I know
you're gonna get. I mean, yeah. It would be a shame right now if you did not go out and get some Mexican food. By the way, I just want to say this right now, and I have no shame saying it. And if anybody disagrees with me, hey, God bless you. You're entitled to your opinion. But you know what? You can fight God, and I can promise you, you won't win in your fight to God. Okay? I can just tell you that right now. Hold on for a second, folks. David, can you open the door for me real quick? Just one quick second. Hold that door open. It's my wife, and I'm live. Hi, baby. Hi. Hey, they're all in the office. Okay, hey, good to see you. Okay, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Are you gonna stick around for a little while? Okay, what's in there? All right, I love you, baby. Sorry, I saw my wife. She never walks in the studio while we're live, so I just had to say something. Okay, right now as we speak, we are serving some of the best people in our country. Our law enforcement officers. We open up our church building 2 times a year from 10 o'clock in the morning, and we do not close it until 10 o'clock in the morning the next day. And we are feeding our officers all day. Any law enforcement officers watching this, you're in Southern California, come, we'll feed you. We feed close to 1,000 officers every single time we do this.
Do you have to be a law enforcement? I mean, if I'm a guard at the local mall, is that okay?
No, probably not. But if you are a first responder, you are military, firefighters, we welcome you. Waiting on the Lord. Thank you. You say, Pastor James and Brother David, I miss you both. McDonald's coming out with a new burger for President Trump, the McDonald burger. And the Sleepy Joe ice cream cone. Oh, I love that. You know what? I'm telling you, David, some of our people are amongst the best. We have the best. Okay, you got to talk to me because this is a podcast. I know you're preoccupied with the news, bro.
No,
I know.
This is coming up. Another rocket just now fired from Yemen, just now.
Okay,
just now.
Dude, I wish I could say that I was bummed by that. I wish.
Well, okay, so let's see if I can explain what that means, okay? If you look at a map of the Middle East, you have Israel, you have Saudi Arabia, and you have Yemen on the south.
Yeah.
Which means when the Yemenites fire a rocket, a ballistic missile at Israel, it goes over Saudi Arabia. And who's in Saudi Arabia right now?
Yeah, I mean, we know.
That's what I mean. Again,
I know.
The Houthis, who Trump has said have decided to quit firing at the shipping, and he's giving them a lot of prestige, and he's giving Oman a lot of prestige, but they just now fired a ballistic missile over the head of the United States, the President of the United States of America.
God, look, God is sovereign. He knows what he's doing in allowing these demons to do what they're doing. By the way, I just want to respond to somebody. I don't know why I always see the questions that are kind of harsh. Okay, but I think that the question that this person is asking is from really good faith. And I think that, smart people ask questions like this, and I understand, okay? So I think this is Marie Bernal. She's saying, James, Trump is for sale. When are you going to see that? I get why somebody would ask that question, right? Because you're looking at the $400 million Qatari plane. You're looking at, some of the other things that are going on. And I actually don't blame people when they feel that way, okay? And she goes on to say Trump didn't even know that they shot the missile over. They were inside the palace. I promise you, Marie, Trump knew that the missile went over.
And the people knew.
Yeah, and the people knew. Like, I can promise you that that was the case, because they have to prepare people when that comes. Okay, let's just talk about Trump being bought. Should we just say that for 1 second?
Okay. Can I continue to add on some layers to what she's asking in order to kind of make this, because there is an element of wait a minute, what he's doing. What is he doing?
Yeah, but can I want you to address that.
Okay.
But I just want to say a couple of things in terms of Trump being brought, because this is like really important, okay? The man almost lost his life while an attempted assassination has happened multiple times on him before he even voted. His net worth has dropped over $2 billion, not million, $2 billion since becoming the president of the United States and running for office.
Okay.
The Qatari plane is something that he could buy cash right now if he wanted to, out of his own pocket. So we have to be careful when we say that Trump can be bought or Trump is being bought and paid for. My belief is that Trump is doing exactly what he feels like he needs to do to get the best result for the United States of America. Now, you know this. I know this. Our culture is very different from American culture on so many levels, especially when you start talking about interaction with Arabs. If I give you a beautiful gift, even if it's one that is so expensive I can't even imagine being able to buy one for myself, I would be disrespecting you and spitting in your face if I said I don't want it. And not only would I be doing that, I would be closing the door to ever having a conversation with you again.
My question is, he going to fly it? But okay, can I expand on what you just now said? Because
I guarantee you he won't fly it.
I
guarantee you he won't fly it.
Well, me and Christy were in Israel, and one of the things that we do is we go and we buy things, in the old city from the Arab merchants, in order to bring them back, and we have tables at places where we speak and Jerusalem fairs and everything. So we have a lot of business transactions with a couple of the shopkeepers there. Some of them know us very well, and every time we go there, they put a gift in our hands. Because we come to do business with them. We come and we spend some money there. And every time they will say, I've come to a point. I've sold Pastor Jeff, by the way. Same thing. Walk into the store after everybody buys and he goes to Pastor Jeff, what do you want here?
Yep. And you never say no.
You never say no.
If you do, you have, and I used to watch this with Pastor Jeff. When we go on these trips, even sometimes they would say, what do you want? He would pick something. They would get upset. They would say, pick the nicest thing. Don't pick this little. Then he would pick it, and then he knew better. If it's something that he knew he wasn't going to take or want or whatever, he still took it, and then later on at the hotel that night, he gave it to somebody. But that's our culture. That is our custom. Now, let me just say this. The Qataris are dirty as all heck. Their money is so dirty, it's not even funny. They are super, super, super evil. They're not good people. And going to Marie's question, we just don't know exactly what Trump is going to do. We don't really completely know. But I can tell you this: he's certainly not forsaking Israel, at least from what we can see.
Okay.
And Marie, I would just encourage you to just think through everything, in that when Trump does things like this, we don't know the whole picture until we see the end result. By the way, you are a close friend with Mike Huckabee.
Yep.
Who is the ambassador?
The American ambassador.
The American ambassador to the state of Israel. And you had a conversation with Mike about this.
Because some of the things coming out here kind of freaked me out, and again, maybe what I should do is see if I can frame it the way sometimes it looks from an Israeli point of view. But and I sent Mike Huckabee a message, and I said, "Listen, by the way, I wasn't the only one. he had
he
the
got
answers.
probably millions.
No, he was on Israeli TV actually answering the same question.
Yeah,
is President Trump throwing us under the bus?" And he said very clearly, and I'm going to see if I can quote it. I don't know if these are exact words, but he said, "The people who are saying that, you don't know their names.
That's right.
You don't know who they are. They're talking under." There was a Jerusalem Post article that was actually written by a guy with a very Muslim name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably from the Shabak.
And he keeps on, and he keeps on quoting different sources, when unnamed sources, and he said, "I know President Trump. I talk to him on a daily basis. I'm in the middle of this whole dynamic. You know my name, and I'm putting my name behind the fact that President Trump is looking out for Israel's interest no matter what."
Was it you that Huckabee said a few days ago or yesterday or a few days ago that Trump talks to Bibi more than he talks to him as of late these last few days?
They've been talking a lot.
They've been talking more than even him and the ambassador has been talking.
No, I didn't hear that, but I know that Mike. I don't know if I call him governor now or ambassador.
It's hard to. Everyone still calls him governor because of what's going on. By the way, Marie, thank you for your comments and questions. They're valid. That's actually one of the big reasons why we're doing this show, is because a lot of people are super upset over this right now.
Yeah,
and I understand why.
Well, I want to add on something, because I'm going to say very clearly, I had a hard day yesterday with the whole release of Idan Alexander, and we need to go into that. And the feeling is this, and again, Trump is negotiating with the enemy. Iran is the enemy. Yemen is the enemy. Qatar is the enemy. Let's make this very clear. And Trump has come to the Middle East with a bag of incentives and a bag of deals. And basically, he's sitting down, in my mind, in our mind, with some very, very bad people. The release of Idan Alexander was pretty hard for us to choke on, and I'm hearing some of the.
Can you explain this to people, because there's a lot of people that don't understand what you're saying. Like my heart, like I get it, like I know. It's like I could have predicted that you were going to say this.
Let's explain first of all what happened. Okay, there are still 50. There were 59. Now there's 58 hostages that were kidnapped on the 7th of October last year and are still in the hands of the Hamas. We believe only 21 of them are alive.
Yep.
One of them, most of them are male now, and the vast majority of them are soldiers. One of the soldiers was a young boy that's parents came from Israel, but was born in New Jersey, grew up and was born in New Jersey. His name is Idan Alexander. When he was 18, he came back to Israel to serve in the military. So he was a soldier in Kisufim when Kisufim was taken, and he was taken hostage together with the hostages. There are altogether 5 or 6 hostages that had dual nationality, just like I do. I'm an American citizen, but I'm also an Israeli citizen. I serve in the Israeli military, but I do have an American passport. So Idan was on that same kind of condition. He was one of the hostages. We saw him as one of the hostages. The Hamas decided, as a sign of good faith, before President Trump comes to Israel, to release him without, a price. And basically told the American administration, we're going to release Idan Alexander as a present for your visit to the Middle East. They said that. Now,
I'm about to speak in Arabic.
Wait a minute.
But I can't because people understand me are going to get offended.
First of all, I need to say this.
I shouldn't have said it, but I said it.
James, a hostage was released. Let's make this clear. And let's make this clear that this is a young man, and we all saw the move, the minute that his mother had the first conversation. Whitcliffe called his mother on the phone.
I watched the video.
Okay,
yeah.
and we all watched that. We all had tears in our eyes. So a hostage has been released. But think about all the rest of the families who have sons that are in the Gaza tunnels that don't have American passports. What are they saying right now? And I heard some of them say that. So, on one hand, you have a hostage released. On the other hand, you have something else, and I think this is important to say. The United States of America negotiated directly with Hamas, meaning whether I understand the whole dynamic of it.
Not in conjunction with Israel. They had to have had Israel with them in these conversations.
No.
What the heck is up with the unilateral conversation with a bunch of devils?
That is what Israel is saying. We were not part of the conversation. The only thing that they told us is to stop the fighting for half an hour when he is being released, and they gave us the route and the corridor, and they made sure that we agreed, Israel, not to have any drones up so we don't see what tunnel they came out of. Yes, again, a hostage was released.
But I guarantee you we had satellites looking at it.
Okay, we have a lot of things. But what I'm trying to say is if we don't negotiate with terrorist organizations, if we don't legitimize them, if we say they should be dismantled, then we just now negotiated with a terrorist organization, and again, for a good reason. But from an Israeli point of view, you understand that that is problematic. Now, I agree. President Trump is going to say, yes, we got a hostage out. And yes, there's talk about getting 4 more of the American hostages that are, I'm sorry to say, not among us anymore. Okay? But again, it is a side note where the American administration is having these kind of discussions directly with a terrorist organization. By the way, the negotiation with the Houthis. I mean, the guy who said we're going to negotiate had a sign behind his head, said death to America, death to Israel. But we negotiated, and they agreed not to fire rockets anymore at shipping in the Red Sea. But they just now fired a rocket over the head of the United States. Literally. So there's this duality going on. And now the question is, all right, we understand the situation. What is the agreement? What are the measures? What are the dynamics that is going to result? And we should go a little bit into the details of what agreement is being mixed in together, because this agreement is going to mix in Israel, Hamas, is going to mix in Saudi Arabia, is going to mix in the Houthim in Oman, is going to mix in Iran, and according to everything that we understand now, is going to mix in Turkey and Turkey and Syria.
Yeah, and speaking of Syria, is it true? And I don't know if this is going to happen. I sincerely hope it's not true that the president is. I hope he's not going to be meeting with Giuliani. There's no way we should have a unilateral or bilateral conversation, period, with that terrorist.
If the American administration is talking to Hamas and the American administration is talking to the Houthim, and the American administration is talking to Khamenei, I mean, why is Giuliani different?
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. That's who we're talking about here.
Death to America. I mean, and I think what we're seeing is a shift in what President Trump is saying. He's saying, I will come with power, and this is what a quote that I picked up. He says, I've come to bring peace, but I'm going to bring peace with power. And I think this is a new shift. This is not only power, this is peace with power. So here's my power. Here's my aircraft carrier. Here's my B-2 bomber. It's here. It's ready. Now let's sit down and talk. And I want you to agree to what I want you to agree with. And I think that is what is critical here.
Is there any way conceivable in your mind that any type of discussion that happens with President Trump and Iran, where there is an agreement at any level, is anything different than the JCPOA of the Obama administration?
He says at this time we can check it better. This time we can, afford more. This time we can allow it more.
Sunset clause?
Yep. And the sanctions. The sanctions are the whole big issue here. Oh, and one more thing. Saudi Arabia wants a reactor too. I don't know if we've talked about this. Saudi Arabia says, if you're going to leave them a reactor, we want
Well,
a
no,
reactor.
no. Listen. This is, we already know bin Salman has been saying it for a long time. If Iran has a weapon, we're going to have a weapon. If Iran is even left with a reactor, they are going to enrich uranium.
And he is saying,
And they're
if
not
they have
playing.
a reactor, I want a reactor. Now, here's my problem. If Saudi Arabia has a reactor, why not Kuwait? Why not Egypt?
No, the scary one is, why not Qatar?
You see?
That's the scary one.
So again, he's a magician. I know that, and I appreciate that. And I would say this, and I heard Derimer say a little while ago that a good agreement that can be monitored and how do you say policed, okay, is better than an attack.
Yep.
And it's moving into that.
Yeah, and I can appreciate what Steve says because I'm looking at some of these comments because some
Okay.
of these comments are reflections of thoughts that all of us have at one point or another. But Steve says any narcissistic egotist falls for flattery in the end. I know that there is this massive perception that says that Donald Trump is a narcissistic egotist.
Oh no.
A lot of people say that because he seems to respond very effectively to flattery. But here's the thing you have to understand about Donald Trump. He doesn't think that way. He is a self-promoter, absolutely. Is he narcissistic? Absolutely not. I don't think he falls in that category. If he was, then his modus operandi for how he operates, how he functions as the president of the United States would be completely different. Okay? It's very easy to conflate what some people call narcissistic tendencies with what you see happening with President Trump because you see what appears to be a very quick pivot when somebody compliments him or somebody says something nice. But what people don't get is that the president is very good at being able to throw away the negative comments made towards him when somebody says something nice because he recognizes that the only way he gets things done is to have a short memory when it comes to things related to his self-image. So if he one day says, if I one day go to him and go, you're the biggest fool on the face of the earth, and then we go into this nasty back and forth, and then a month later I say, well, he's not so bad. Hey, can we have dinner and talk for a few minutes? He'd say, come on. I'll host you at the White House. Let's sit down and have a conversation.
What was the name of those two journalists that came after the election?
Yeah, same thing. And then a day later, what will he do? Hey, that guy's a good guy. He's not as bad. Why? Not because Donald Trump is a narcissist who just responded to somebody stroking his ego. It's because he's a man that has a certain level of discipline that very few people in his position or with his influence even come close to having. He is so focused that he is capable of shunning what is personal in a way where his emotions are in check so that he can create the largest objective possible. Think about this. If President Trump was a narcissist, there's no way in the world he would have Tulsi Gabbard or RFK on his staff. These are people that ran against him and said some of the worst, most inconceivable, crazy things about him, and yet he was able to pivot immediately for the betterment of the country.
Did you see Bill Maher's piece about his visit to the White House?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Classic example.
Watched his whole piece about that. And look, Bill Maher, in my opinion, is a despicable person on a lot of levels. But again, it goes back to the president doesn't operate at the same level that a lot of people do. He doesn't hold on to this emotional bent. And the only reason why I feel so strongly about the representations I'm making concerning him is because I have a very similar personality. You can rip me to pieces, but if I see a window for me and you to sit down and have a conversation because something better is going to come as a result, I'm doing it every day.
Okay, so let me step on top of this and let's see if we can do. And I think, excuse me. I think what we owe the people is, wait a minute, what is actually on the table? What is he doing? What is he pushing? What is he changing that will be so, how do you say, worth everything that he is doing right now? I mean, are we giving up on Iran having a nuclear weapon? Are we allowing the Houthis to keep on firing at Israel? Are we accepting that the Hamas is going to live to tell the tale or not? And that's the big question that is actually in the air. And I think, and anyway, I heard part of the details of the deal that is being made. I think that I've heard that it is a pretty good deal that it looks like it's coming on. What do you know about the actual deals that are being made or on the table?
Specifically, what deals are we talking about? The deal with Trump in Saudi Arabia? What deals
the
are we
Trump
talking
in Saudi
about?
Arabia and how this ties up to all the rest of them.
So I can. So let me just say this, and sorry, I'm juggling a few things around, guys. So let me just say this because I think this is like really, really important. Whatever it is that's going on right now in Saudi Arabia is going to be for the purpose of creating the mechanism of maximum benefit for everybody that's involved. That doesn't happen unless normalization with Israel is achieved. So if the president is going to achieve normalization with Israel, the first objective he has to accomplish has to be outside of Israel. He can't put Israel in the center if he's going to create the objective effectively that he's seeking to put in. Let me explain what I mean when I say this, okay? The most reprehensible mistake that have been made by Arab countries with respect to their greater benefit has always been the utilization as a trade demand of the Palestinian dual state delusion. That has always been the tool that they've used, which has traditionally blocked them from experiencing any benefit they could experience because they know, just like everybody else knows, that the two-state delusion, as I would call it, is an impossibility because their desire is min shahrabar. Their desire is from the river to the sea.
Okay, so let's
let me finish the thought.
Okay.
So the thing that you have to understand here is President Trump is not willing to say in negotiations, we must accommodate normalization with Israel in order for us to move forward here, because in their mind, they can't accept that carrot because they don't know that normalization would work. They have no evidence of it. So what he has to do is he has to be able to prove that they can maintain their security interests, specifically against Iran, that they can maintain their security interests specifically against factions like the Houthis or in Djibouti for that matter, and they have to be able to demonstrate that they can function independently of any help, especially if Saudi Arabia is supposed to be the leader of the trade route disposition. The moment he does that, the unspoken entrance is the imposition of Israel, because President Trump knows there is no trade route in existence, no proposed trade route in existence that is complete without the utilization of paths that cut directly through Israel.
Okay.
So it's the unspoken word between all of the Arab nations. You're gonna have to reconcile with Israel.
Okay, but here's the problem. The whole October 7th was a maneuver by Hamas to stop exactly that dynamic.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that. October 7th was less of a reflection on Hamas
in
terms of what they did, and more of a reflection on the Shin Bet. More of a reflection on what the concepcion of Israel allowed to happen and
Okay.
what they chose to give themselves to.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is this. What has changed in Saudi Arabia's mind, I think, is that concessions or agreements or acceptance that they were willing to do with Israel before October 7th are not possible today after October 7th. Does that make sense? Because of the outrage by the...
Repeat that for me again, because
Okay.
I didn't understand that.
If Saudi Arabia was willing to go 20% into... okay, let's go. The main issue is Saudi Arabia agreeing to normalization with Israel. What do they demand in return?
Yeah.
Wait, let me finish this line.
Yep.
Okay. What they're demanding in return, what in the past was, we're demanding in return a solution to the Palestinian problem. Because our people in Saudi Arabia and the Arab world who see us as leaders would not accept a normalization without us looking out for our Palestinian brothers. On October 6th last year, Saudi Arabia was willing to say, okay, they haven't solved the problem. We are willing to go to normalization even though we don't solve the problem for our Palestinian brothers. Now, they have shifted a little bit, saying the war in Gaza has continued too long. The situation in Gaza is so bad that makes it worse for us to see normalization without taking care of the Palestinians. And the word that we were talking about, and again, some of the left-wing, media in Israel was saying, Trump has agreed, okay, to disassociate normalization with Israel with the whole big multi-billion-dollar agreement, meaning they don't have to normalize with Israel to get all of the multi-million-dollar agreements that we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Look, no.
Okay.
And I'm going to deal with it at a level that might be a little bit more discernible to you because you have a level of expertise that the average person doesn't.
Okay.
Let me make myself very, very clear. Saudi Arabia is using the rhetoric that they're using with respect to the two-state delusion because Saudi Arabia doesn't have a guarantee that the moment normalization takes place with Israel, they will be able to bring in their trade partners that will make the trade routes work. Think about it like this. I'm Saudi Arabia. My dream for the most fundamental expression of the greatest economic freedom possible is to create trade routes that in essence completely blot out Iran and some of the Gulf Coast states. That's my dream. I can't do that unless I normalize with Israel.
Okay.
The hardest thing for me to do is to normalize with Israel.
Why?
But I'll tell you, hold on. Why? Because the rest of the Mideast world doesn't like Israel.
Exactly.
But let me explain for a second. So what good is it if I'm MBS and I achieve normalization with Israel without any two-state delusion promise, and none of the Arab countries want to join me because they're concerned of the security implications? It renders my job useless. I now lose influence as Saudi Arabia amongst the other Arab nations.
Because Saudi Arabia sees itself as the leader of the Muslim world.
Yes, but because of the fact that I normalized with Israel and I did not incentivize my action of normalization for something that would be mutually beneficial for the rest of the Mideast. What's mutually beneficial for the rest of the Mideast is normalization with the understanding that the promise of the Palestinian delusion will not become their problem. Jordan, let me finish the thought. Jordan does not want Palestinians in their country.
No.
Egyptians don't want Palestinians in their country. 22 of the Arab nations, Arab Muslim nations, don't want Palestinians, and they don't want Islamic Brotherhood. They don't want Islamic Jihad. They don't want any of those people. So the problem is, if I am going to sit down as an auxiliary Arab nation in this agreement that hasn't normalized with anybody, with Saudi Arabia, and tell Saudi Arabia, I'm going to work with you and I'm going to allow you to map a portion of my country as part of your trade route. They are crazy to do that if they do not have an incentivization and, more importantly, a deconfliction mechanism to create their security interests at a stronger pace. So hold on. So the easiest solution, the fastest way to normalization with Israel in that context is you build the Arab coalition first. You establish the unit of Arab countries that choose to follow suit with Saudi Arabia. And when that happens, the two-state delusion that's being created by the broken Palestinian Authority and the actions of terrorism being funded by Hamas, which, by the way, let's just really get real. Saudi Arabia will never admit the fact that they love Qatar. I mean, that they don't like Qatar. They have to act well because of the whole Gulf Coast Council. But let me just say,
Qatar is funding them.
Yeah, of course. But the thing that you have to understand is this, and it's super critical to recognize this, okay? If I'm President Trump, my tactic is going to be two things. Spend as much time with Bibi as possible after I've demonstrated to the world that my affinity is towards Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to go into quiet conversations with Bibi while I very publicly start allowing myself to engage with conversations with other Mideast leaders. I'm going to make sure that Saudi Arabia is going to stay lined up with American interests because I'm going to pull from them $1 trillion in investments, which will codify my ability to be able to guarantee normalization in a NATO-type infrastructure that will shun the disastrous effects of Shiite Islam.
But he cannot do that without solving the Gaza problem.
And that's right.
Here's what I heard, and I just came across my feed. Let me talk about what I think is on the table, and see how that lines up with what you just now said. Okay, what is on the table right now? All right, is a situation where Hamas will be disarmed and leave Gaza. The hostages will be returned, and the Palestinian Authority will request Arab nations to come in and administer Gaza. It has to be a request by the Palestinian Authority in order to legitimize. A 10-year, and this is what it just now came up to, a 10-year interim period where this conglomeration of Arab nations, they're talking about Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, to administer, but not the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is going to ask for them to come, but will not actually administer it. After 10 years, the Saudis will put a line in there that says there will be a Palestinian Authority in Gaza. That's what I heard is on the table right now. And if that's true, Bibi might sign on it.
Yeah, but and I'm going to tell you why Bibi would sign on it and why Bibi would be wise to sign on it. Bibi would be wise to sign on it because he's watching things in the Palestinian Authority getting very desperate.
Oh, yeah.
He's looking at Mahmoud Abbas, who already isn't respected at a large degree.
And
He's about to die, who just appointed a vice president. Now, by the way, you would think, okay, what's the big deal? He just appointed a vice president. There's never been a vice president position in the history of the Palestinian Authority. So he created the VP position. He appointed the vice president. And then he goes forth utilizing a very specific mechanism to put into play what he thinks is going to be his replacement. The thing that's interesting behind this is Israeli intelligence recognizes the opportunity to step in the moment of weakness to create a security infrastructure that satisfies the conduit that many of these people who are considered to be centrists or moderates want to actually travel through. So Bibi ends up putting himself in a very strategic position And what makes things even more significant is the moment he decides to willfully walk away from his coalition so that he can create a new election, he will gain the sympathy of some of the Arab party leaders.
He can't make a coalition with the Arab party leaders.
Do you want to bet? Do you want to bet?
No, I doubt.
Do you want to bet that he will be able to do what part of what Bennett did in that first coalition?
I don't believe that Israeli population is ready for an Arab player in a coalition right now.
It's not about having a prominent voice in it whatsoever. It's all about the appearance of a peaceful drive. It's about the appearance of a peaceful mechanism.
In our coalition, we have what we have. They will support from the outside.
That's right.
That's what it's called. Meaning they won't be a part of the coalition, but they will support the coalition if need be. And we've had that in the past.
But think about the opportunity that gives Bibi, David. Think about the opportunity that gives Bibi. He makes a promise for a nominal concession to the Arab party, which works at the satisfaction of many of the Arab nations that are trying to work with him, and recognize the opportunity that says there's a public acknowledgement of something that may be. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that.
The Likud party would choke on it. I mean, the Likudniks that I know, I mean, the people that I live with, would choke on that. Especially, let's put it this way: our willingness to live with Arabs and Muslims after October 7th is not higher; it's lower.
Yeah, I get it.
And there would be a problem. But if that kind of agreement was put in place, meaning Hamas is gone and a technocratic government steps into place, the question is, what is he promising the Saudis in regards to a Palestinian state that will allow them to sign on the dotted line? That's my problem. And if he is promising a Palestinian state, and he says that publicly, which no administration has said yet, then we might have a dynamic. What I heard from Israeli sources is that it's being referred to as 10 years from now. Not now, but 10 years from now.
Maybe.
And something happens in that 10 years. So that is the agreement that I'm hearing is on the table. We haven't heard the finalized, but
who's the facilitator of that agreement? Is that coming out of Saudi Arabia?
That's coming out of Saudi Arabia. But it's coming through my Israeli channels.
So there's a back channel. So let me get this. I assume this would be happening anyway. There's a back channel conversation happening right now.
Yep.
With MBS's team, with Trump's team, and with Bibi's team. While they're all in Saudi Arabia, is that the
well,
way
I
to understand
don't
it?
know if there's a Bibi team in Saudi Arabia right now, and
no, they're not in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I'm talking about they're somewhere in Jerusalem, having a conversation on a back channel.
But Trump is in the middle negotiating. Basically, if you think about it, negotiating between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
That's exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
Everybody else is inconsequential. Nobody else matters. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy. But nobody else matters if you can't get this fixed.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the key that will unlock the whole system. Now, if that key unlocks it, then one, an agreement with Iran. Saudi Arabia agrees to an agreement with Iran. Saudi Arabia gets the security apparatus that they want. One of the things that I heard from one of the Israelis today is that Trump is planning to change the name of the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Gulf.
Yeah, no, that's been going on for the last week now. They've been talking about that.
It's kinda cute.
And what he's doing that is he's trying to tick off Iran.
Yeah.
Is what's happening. He's basically, what he's doing is he's publicly saying, "Get down, dog." That's what he's just basically saying. Sit down in your corner, boy, and don't say anything else. That's basically what he's doing.
Yeah, but Iran has lifted its head now. Iran has come to a point, and look at what the Houthis were doing. Did you understand that the Houthis stood up and said, "We have made the United States of America surrender"? I mean, they said that, and Hamas is standing up and saying, "We have made the United States of America crawl to us to get their soldier back." I mean, Hamas has said that. They might have gotten him, by the way. That's what's coming through right now.
Oh, really?
Now that would be a very interesting if they. Okay, let me explain what we're talking about.
Because they
Okay, Israel hit the European hospital in Khan Yunis in Gaza, because we know that in a bunker underneath that were a couple of operatives. One of them was the reporter that reported and filmed the 7th of October. He calls himself a reporter, but we know that he is part of the Hamas. He was killed.
He's a pig.
But Israel hit, and very interesting, we're getting a little bit of details. They did what they did with Nasrallah, meaning they hit the tunnel entrances that we know go out from a major bunker. They hit the tunnel entrances, and after they hit the tunnel entrances, then they hit the bunker itself, meaning nobody could get out, and then they hit the bunker itself. As of now, Hamas is saying no, but it looks like it's possible that Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of Yahya Sinwar, who is the leader of the military wing of Hamas, might have been taken out. And the fact that they fired rockets from inside Gaza into Ashkelon about an hour ago is indicative that they would do that because of something happening.
Okay, can you explain to some people, because people don't know the significance of Sinwar's why he's a big deal at this point. They all know Yahya, but they don't understand.
Okay, Yahya Sinwar was the commander-in-chief of the Hamas military wing.
That's a true psychopath, by the way.
Yeah. And there's a military wing and there's a political wing. The political wing was sitting in Doha. That was what was
in
it?
Qatar.
In Qatar, was sitting literally in Qatar, and later on in Tehran. That's the guy that got assassinated in Tehran.
Yep.
But the military wing, the guys on the ground, were the ones who were actually calling the shots. And there was a feeling that the military wing and the political wing of the Hamas did not get along. By the way, very similar to any kind of, how do you say, technocratic kind of. I mean, China had the same dynamic. So all of that is happening. Anyway, when Yahya Sinwar was killed by the Israelis, his brother Mohammed Sinwar is the head of Hamas now, took up the mantle of running the Hamas military wing, and it looks like he was taken out in a Nasrallah-type attack. The Israelis are saying it was very, very different from what, I mean, something like 9 massive attacks took place, and he was in the bunker. We don't know if he survived or not. The Hamas is saying that he did, but the fact that they fired rockets from Gaza, they used a couple of rockets, might have been in reaction to something like that.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
So
that and that becomes very consequential for Israel, by the way.
Well, and that if that happens while Trump is negotiating basically in Saudi Arabia, that will be another. But because what took down the Hezbollah? The Hezbollah, what took down the Hezbollah in the north was us, how do you say?
Destroying the leadership infrastructure.
No, decapitating, I like the word, is decapitating the leadership.
Yeah, that's right.
And if we can decapitate the leadership of the Hamas in Gaza, that might be the issue. And here's part of what's going on. Israel has agreed, and Huckabee said this yesterday, to allow humanitarian aid back into Gaza.
Yeah.
As part of us paying our dues to the negotiation that's happening in Saudi Arabia. But the condition was we don't allow Hamas to distribute it. So this decapitation might be part of that also. Trump wants to show the world, I'm here in the Middle East, and as a result of that, we're letting humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Right, yep.
So that's what's going on.
Which would be consequential for him to do. He has to be able to do that. Because if he doesn't, then he loses the ground that he's trying to gain in being able to demonstrate to the Arab nations that he's negotiating with that he's going to provide a path for security and no interference. Keep in mind, MBS is also very concerned about the perception of Mecca by the upcoming scholars in Islam.
Yeah.
So because they're focusing a lot of their attention now on Jerusalem, and they're taking their attention away from the Arabian Peninsula, which if they're really going to be looking at history, especially during the time of the dating of their first extant manuscript, they have to be looking at places like Israel, Jerusalem, north of that area. They have to be looking at Damascus. They have to be looking at areas like that. Because the reality of it is when push comes to shove, Islam is in essence simply a Christian heresy. That's how it started. The scholars right now in Pakistan and in India are seeing that. Those are the real brainiacs, by the way. The sharpest Islamic scholars are coming out of there. Even the sharp one that's in Texas. Oh my goodness, I just forgot his name. He's created havoc in the Islamic world. That's coffee.
Thank you.
He took care of you.
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
Thank
See,
you.
Yep. Now mine's coming next.
Let me tie one more thing. I was listening, driving over here to the interview or to the press release of Idan Alexander's parents and him speaking to the press for the first time. James, they tortured him.
Oh yeah.
They starved him. They kept him chained in a cage. Okay, and let's not forget, we're talking about 500.
You put your coffee there. I don't want you to knock it over.
We're talking about 500 and something days.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, these are animals. So Israel, a lot of the public in Israel has a problem with us sending trucks of humanitarian aid. He was not held by the Hamas. The Hamas hands out these hostages to families.
Yep.
They're regular, normal people living in Gaza, and there are now demonstrations in Israel not to allow the aid into Gaza because these are the people that did this to Idan Alexander. And you're getting an idea of what is going on and how this is playing on. So what I'm trying to say is it's very, very problematic. We're letting in aid, but Bibi's going to have to pay a price for this to allow the aid to go in. And I don't know, the coalition might fall apart, and we haven't even talked about Syria yet.
Well, Syria becomes consequential. Syria becomes the country that you have to rope in. But what country are you? How are you going to rope in a country that doesn't have a legitimate leader? That you have a faction actually leading. Just because the rest of the world says they're legitimate doesn't mean they are. Because where is the deconfliction mechanism?
Well, what
between Turkey and Israel?
I think what Trump is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, and that's the feeling, I'm not sure I really kind of picked up, but Trump is saying, I can't deal with El Julani because of all of that. But if Syria is a proxy of Turkey, I can deal with Turkey. And I think, according to Israeli press, he has agreed to let off the sanctions that are on Syria.
But do you understand? You do. I'm saying this for the effect of the group. I mean, do you understand how consequential that ends up becoming?
Yes.
The only reason why that is all like just crazy in my head is because you have to stop for a second and think about what's going on in Turkey right now. I'm doing a video on this. It's getting released in a few days. But the PKK is disbanding. They're actually disbanding.
They've given up their weapons.
And the SDA is going to be given legitimacy for a short period of time only to possibly do the same thing. The Kurds no longer have the influence that they have had in the past, which can create a situation for Turkey. Thank you, Dale. Which could create a situation in Turkey that could become far more dangerous for Israel than anybody ever imagined.
Yep. And on our northern border, and by the way, the Druze, Israel did bomb some of El Julani's forces outside of Damascus. Because they were attacking the Druze in Syria. So again, we've got this play in Turkey, and we're going to see what's going to happen. The agreement between Cyprus, Greece, and Israel is coming through, and Turkey's freaked out about that.
That in and of itself is going to be so significantly consequential. I released a video on that. I don't know. Did you see the video that I did on that?
About
where I did the analysis on the Cyprus deal?
Yeah.
It's such a big deal for so many people on so many levels, because what in essence it does is within an internationally legitimate level slaps Turkey in the face and says, you will never be the leader of the next caliphate. you will never have legitimacy. You will never be the big boy in the Middle East.
Yep.
But what it does also do is it opens up the door for Russia to be the big superpower in the Middle East.
So I'm getting off the Middle East a little bit and going into the Eastern Mediterranean. Basically, there's Israel here, and there's to the east of Israel and to the south. That's basically Saudi Arabia, Yemen, all of that.
Of course.
And there's Israel, and to the north of Israel and towards that's
Lebanon,
Turkey,
Turkey.
and everything that's going on in there. And again, anybody who's been on a tour with me has seen how the geographical position of Israel plays such a role in all of these different dynamics. And God put us in probably one of the most pivotal places in the world. He just stuck us right here in the middle of, I think, the main axis that look at this, the whole world is turning around these things. The whole world right now has its eyes to Israel, has its eyes to the Middle East. The American administration, the strongest man in the world, just now had a conversation with Idan Alexander with a 21-year-old soldier from Israel. I mean, President Trump just now talked to him, and it's been public. I mean,
over the phone.
Yeah,
because he's not going to do it in Qatar.
No, but over the phone. What I'm trying to say is an Israeli 21-year-old soldier is now talking to the President of the United States. I mean, it's mind-boggling how all of this actually, we're kind of taking all of this, and it all gets funneled down through God's chosen people and God's promised land.
Which I want to take an opportunity to add to this. No way in the world a president that's turning his back on Israel would ever take the time to speak to a 21-year-old hostage, American citizen or not, who's an IDF soldier.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen.
So what is he saying? It doesn't make
any kind of sense.
Basically, he's saying something about the whole conversation that we just now had is President Trump throwing him under the bus. And that's, I think, part of the decision or part of the dynamic that we're seeing.
Woo. Yeah, these are all deeply consequential issues. Every single one of them are deeply consequential on a lot of levels.
Can I trigger you?
I know where you're going to go.
No, you don't. Not on this one. Pakistan, India.
Oh, I you know what? I did not expect you to bring that up, but that is a good trigger for me. because Pakistan, India, in my opinion, with respect to the complexities associated with the region, may be some of the more easily discernible parts of the region. It's not as hard to analyze the two of them as it would be some of the things we're seeing right now, the complexities that exist between the Arab nations and the Middle East, at least with respect to the war and this little ceasefire that they have where they've now agreed to come to a permanent solution. The greatest way to simplify this in the minds of anybody who doesn't really understand what's happening is to simply say that, oh yeah, David is wearing a Monkey Works t-shirt. Yes, Bartjan. I'm going to go to read some of your super chats, guys, in just a minute. Pakistan, they're bad actors. They've always been bad actors. They've never not been bad actors, okay? Pakistan is, in essence, a functional proxy of China. Let's just be real. Pakistan has China's latest and greatest weapons. Their latest and greatest fighter jets, a lot of their latest and greatest weapons.
According to the news, they shot down a couple of Indian airplanes.
Yes. So, and this is where this becomes consequential. India is a relative proxy of the United States in the region.
Yep.
India has all of the latest and greatest American weapons.
By the way,
with
quite
the
a few
exception of the
Israelis.
F-22.
Israeli too.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the Israeli thing is a little bit different because America does not view its relationship with Israel as a proxy relationship. We view our relationship with Israel as a strategic partner and a close ally. So it's very different. So with India, when something like this happens, when a skirmish happens between the two of them, the American leaders will let it go for a little while. And so will the Chinese leaders, because it's their opportunity to test how well their weapons work against each other.
Okay,
it's practice in their minds for what could be a serious problem in Taiwan. China, in my opinion, created what we saw between Pakistan and India. Let me explain myself when I say this, okay? China is desperate. They're in the worst place economically of their lives.
Oh, by the way, this agreement that Trump is doing with Saudi Arabia, and if Trump cleans up the Middle East, I mean,
it'll destroy China.
China
doesn't have a
boards.
chance. There's no hope for China. China's done. Okay? And by the way, I respect and love some of the economists that are saying that we're in big trouble because China's the big monster, the big bad wolf. But with all due respect to all of those economists, they're dead wrong. And I hate to say this, they don't completely or fully understand or know what they're dealing with, because China is in the worst place it's ever been. COVID happened as a result of an act of desperation by China in the leak of the lab. But let's take it a step further.
Can I explain what happened with Pakistan and India? Because I do have a slant on this that I think is important.
Yeah, and let me just make this one thought, and then you go ahead and do that. So, all of our big companies here in the United States of America said, we're walking away from going to China for our supply chain. We are building factories here in the United States. Many of them are already breaking ground.
Okay.
But in the meantime, President Trump, we're going to go to India to establish our supply chains.
Yep.
President Trump says, I'll allow that to happen. We'll give a reprieve in order for that to take place, so long as you continue with the path of creating your factories here in America. Apple probably being the biggest promulgator of it. Is it a surprise that within a day of the time that gets established, there is a war that starts between India and Pakistan based on an aggressive action by Pakistan utilizing Chinese hardware?
What was before the aggression? Do you know what sparked this off? The terrorist attack in the tourist sites.
Yes,
and
that's
here's
right.
the thing,
That's
okay?
right.
It was an October 7th style terrorist attack. The Pakistani, a Pakistani Islamic radical organization took over a tourist bus in a tourist site in Pakistan, where Hindus come to visit sites in Pakistan.
Yep.
And actually got everybody off the bus and asked them if they were Hindu or Muslim. If they were Muslim, walk away. If they were Hindu, actually in some cases, according to the stories, or Christian, they asked them to take their pants down to see if they were circumcised.
That's right.
And if they were, they executed them on the spot. I mean, that is a Clockwork Orange kind of event.
Yep.
Now, wait a minute. Why didn't I hear the world talk about this? Why didn't I hear the world up in arms? Why didn't I hear the world talk about how this happened? And that is what sparked off the Indian response. But here's an interesting thing. The powers, in this case China, by the way, China owns Pakistan.
Yep.
China owns the ports,
We know
China owns the airports, China owns all of everything that Pakistan is going to create or manufacture in the next 100 years goes to China. So China, if you're correcting, didn't say that Pakistan started a war with India. They use these Muslim militants to spark off a dynamic that will change the political situation.
1,000%.
What does that sound like? Hamas.
1,000%.
It sounds like what Hamas did.
But that's because Hamas, China, and all these other bad actors have the same general that's running them, and that's the devil. I mean, it's not hard to see the coincidence there. There's a spiritual mechanism that drives all of this.
So China pushes the button on an Islamic regime that on an Islamic organization that has blood in its eyes and killing and slaughtering Christians in its motivation, and says go do that, and stands back to watch the whole thing. I mean, that's what Iran did with Hamas.
Yep, 100%.
That is totally what Iran did with Hamas.
100%.
And again, we're seeing that dynamic again. Now the question is, can President Trump step in and separate the two? And I think to a certain extent, I think the United States of America is doing that right now, and we have to see it. I'm really, really curious to see what the details of the agreement are going to be. I think in a day or two we're going to know, and if Israel can reach an agreement, and again, maybe, but I see three main scenarios kind of playing out. And I put up a movie last night that kind of goes into the three main scenarios that put this. One of the options is this is going to work, and everything that we're talking about is going to work out. But another option is that Israel says no, and we go back. I mean, the soldiers are on the border with Gaza right now.
Yeah.
Israel says no, and we go back into Gaza with everything that we have. But I have a third scenario that I think might be, and I'm kind of worried about that. And your opinion on this kind of is, I'm curious about this, and that is this. It's a in between. The Iranians say yes, but keep on enriching uranium. The Iranians say yes and keep on enriching uranium. The Hamas says yes, but keeps on rearming. The Houthis say yes. I mean, I'm saying something like that is happening, an in-between situation where everybody says the right words, but the agreement isn't actually feasible, and we're going to be back in a war in another 6 months, a year. I'm worried about that. And do you think that's a possibility?
Yes. Listen, the greatest danger that we have right now as it sits is that we buy more time for these animals.
Exactly.
That right there is the problem that Trump is contending with. That's the problem the negotiators are contending with. You cannot give them time. It's a stranglehold.
And what they do negotiate, I'm watching the negotiation tactic of the Iranians, which is very good. I'm watching the negotiating tactic of the Houthis. Okay, they say, okay, if you put pressure on us, we'll let you get what you want, but we're not going to agree completely. And again, it's all about the time, and I think tie that into the Syrian issue. I think El-Julani is a radical Islamic jihadi crazy.
You think?
But he is buying time right now.
That's right. It's the
He's buying time right now by saying, okay, I'm going to put on a suit and shave off my beard. That's okay. Okay, and take the sanctions off me. Let me rebuild. Let me rearm. It's only a matter of time, then I'm going to start my jihad again.
It's the same thing that was happening while the Concepcion was thinking that they were on a different level. It's the same exact situation. It's the same exact situation. So look, the bad actors have to get dealt with. If they don't get if the bad actors don't get dealt with, we start from a different place. And recovering from that place would be virtually impossible. Which, here's the funny thing about this, right? If it falls apart like we don't want it to, there's still room for the Lord to bring us to the end game.
No,
just like if it goes to the highest point. Look.
So here's the discussion me and Christy were having yesterday. Okay. Ezekiel 38, end times. Are we right there? I don't know. I don't think anybody actually knows for sure, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this. Okay. What do we do? Do we sit back and just wait for the things to happen? Or do we, as influencers or as players or as people who have opinions, do we have a role to play in how this end time scenario plays out?
Well, the role that we have to play is the same role that Brun just described in his comment. And that's to declare what he just writes. And that is, he says, as I've listened to you all speak today, I see two things. God is in control, and things are being set up to occur just as the Bible says. So our role is to stand up for righteousness, is to speak against evil, is to do the things that God has called us to do, occupy until he comes. And that means we are going to advocate for Israel. That means we're going to stand up for the things that are righteous. But then we're going to enjoy watching the show because God is going to do something that's going to be so astoundingly crazy that we're going to look at this and go, you can't make this stuff up. You can't. No matter how you cut it. You can't make this stuff up.
So, I mean, Tom has a show. I mean, that's named, and it is amazing. And who would have believed that the president of the United States would be sitting in Saudi Arabia with a rocket from Yemen going over his head and being intercepted by Israel?
Dude,
I
that's-
mean,
that's
how
one
do you-
that I
how do
could
you
have
put
never
that
predicted.
together.
That's one that I could have never predicted. And I guarantee you the royal family is ticked off right now. Do you know how angry the royal family has to be over a Yemeni missile flying over them?
Yep.
Do you know how like perfect that works just
Yeah, but
in the overall?
Do you know that we as Israelis are saying, who do you think you could make an agreement with this crazy Yemenite?
I mean, that's the hilarious thing.
What do you call that? What do you call that stuff that they chew in Yemen? That narcotic leaf that they chew. We call it gat.
Yeah, I don't remember the Arabic word, but yeah, they're all getting high.
Oh, I know. You got to see them.
Stupid.
They're all high.
It's just these people.
But here's the thing,
Oh,
James. My mom was in the bomb shelter again today. I mean that kind of and let's go back to what we're talking about.
can you guys
Tourism.
compute that, guys? Guys, I want you to all compute that for a second. My mom was in the bomb shelter.
Like, I mean, again, we're talking all here.
I used to have a hard time with the thought that my mom would have to walk a few extra steps if she didn't have to.
Yeah.
Than to think about my mom was in the bomb shelter today.
And I think that's part of what needs to be kind of reminded as we go along. Okay, James.
So let's do some pontificating, shall we? Because this is where it can get really, really fun. What do you think is going to happen?
I feel like I'm watching a magic show, and Trump's head is in the hat, and I'm waiting to see what's going to come out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine. I can't see an all-out agreement of everything in the Middle East. It's hard for me to kind of figure it out. That would solve the Saudi problem, solve the Iranian problem, solve the Houthi problem, and solve the Israeli problem. And the Israeli problem, again, James, people, it's personal for us, and it's not. I'm sitting here on a podcast talking about it, but Idan Alexander was a personal aspect, and we're torn as a people between, okay, we're glad that he's here, but wait a minute, where are the rest of them?
Yeah.
And what are we willing to pay for the rest of them to come out?
Yep.
Am I willing to let the Hamas rearm itself in order to get the rest of the hostages back? Those are the questions that we're asking right now.
And I'm telling you, man, there's things contributing to this that are even crazier. Like, for example, because, as you can see, I'm watching a bunch of things right now. The CPI report just came out, softer than expected.
CPI?
Yeah. So basically, when we start talking about these indexes that relate to consumer prices, that's what the CPI is. It's a consumer price index. The report for that came out softer than expected, which caused basically the market to go beyond where we lost everything. So now we are back at the place where we were prior to the tariff problem that they said would destroy our market.
Okay.
So what that does strategically for the president with how he begins to change things from an economic perspective has just added a level of credibility to his name in these negotiations that are going to be far more consequential than anybody thinks.
He's about to sign for $1 trillion of investment to
bro,
to the United States.
And I've been saying this. There's a lot of people, David, a lot of people that are saying that our economy is going to fail as a result of all of these tariff things. And I've been saying for a long time, no, China's economy is going to fail. See, this is the part that people don't get, especially when it comes to end times prophecy. Our audience gets it. Our audience gets it probably better than most. We will accelerate faster into the condition of the tribulation by America profiting than we will by America failing.
You can write. Sorry, I can't help this. But what are we going to start a company that says, how do you say, prophets before the rapture?
Man, Dean is hilarious. Dean says, if I'm pontificating, does that make me part Pope? Where's my hat?
Oh, well, we got an American Pope. At least that's for.
Yeah, bro, it's good. He's gonna be so woke. He's gonna be far worse than Pope Francis.
Pope the woke.
Bro, the woke Pope is up. Okay, we're gonna do this. I am going to read some super chats. Okay. As I do that, we're going to take a few questions.
Yes, do that.
So if you have some questions, put question in all caps and send us your question. Okay? And then while that's going on, I am going to read some of these super chats. So put your questions in. They are important to us. Okay, let's read some of these super chats. We already read, let me see, Story Broke. But we read Bart Jun, Waiting on the Lord. We read yours. Okay, Warrior Tradition Fund. Dean. By the way, Dean, I have to say this. Dean is broadcasting more again, which is good. Listen, Warrior Tradition Fund, amazing people. Dean is a man after my own heart. I consider Dean a colleague of mine. It's not a matter of when his podcast blows up. It's if his podcast is going to blow up. It's a matter of when. The guy is a voice to a generation that is not being heard right now. And I just love him, even though he's probably saying some smart aleck comment right now as we speak. All right. Hey, by the way, we got guys like this in our audience. Brad is another guy, brilliant pastor. Mike Digman. We got a lot of good guys here that I am very humbled by, that are on my research team that are just brilliant guys. Like, surround yourself around smart people. You always win. Okay, so let's see what Dean says is going to get me in trouble. Dean says, so President Trump can give the plane to me based on that logic. That's hilarious. Another thing Dean says, Dale Quimby is mad at me because I changed my name from Pastor Meanie Pants, but I'm not his daddy. I know. Who is his daddy? You know. You all know the answer, don't you, Dale? Everybody knows that answer. Tweeter Trash, good to see you. I've been seeing you everywhere. Love you. You say everyone thinks Trump's gonna let the world divide Israel. I don't buy it.
No.
But even if he did, what's the worst that can happen? Jesus comes quicker. Okay. Yeah, and you're right. It's not going to happen. Jesus is God forever blessed, I think is what that says. And we love you. We love seeing you in the chat. Why is Trump meeting up with that demon, Giuliani? Why? We don't negotiate with demons. Amen. But they're negotiating with Hamas. So
and the Houthis.
And the Houthis. I mean,
and Khamenei.
Yeah, Khamenei, of course. Okay, Bart Jun, is David wearing a monkey shirt? We already answered that one. And then, and I read yours, Brad. Very, very good from you guys. Okay,
I'm reading something. Somebody's saying
You
they
already
wanted
seen
the
questions?
other pope. No, somebody wanted the pope that his last name is Pizza Ballas. It really is his name.
I'm not going to go there. You're going to get me in trouble. Okay.
Well, I mean, that is his name. He was the Cardinal of Jerusalem. We talked about that, I think, a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so Brad has a question. He says, the statement you made about America prospering is interesting. Would you please explain this, please? Yeah, it's really simple, actually. If America prospers, what that will do is it will create a condition by which there will be one of two things happening. Number one, America's prosperity will be predicated upon its lack of involvement in other countries, which then would explain an element of inconsequentiality that we see in Bible prophecy, because it will gradually move towards the America-only mindset. It will be a flavor of nationalism that removes America from involvement in most of the countries consequential to Bible prophecy, which would then accelerate the path that we know that would create it. The other thing that it could do is it could be indicative, the prosperity that I see coming could be indicative of a spiritual awakening that I'm also seeing happening. If the spiritual awakening happens, then that in and of itself could be the new hub, like it used to be, for the gospel being preached all over the world, thus creating an acceleration path for the events that we see in the end times. There's a few more scenarios where that would also work. So the other thing that it could also do is prosperity. I'll give you another very viable one since we're all pontificating.
I love the word.
Is the manipulation of currency becoming a greater and greater and greater problem, and the United States seeking to eliminate it based on the embracing that they're having right now of cryptocurrency. That in and of itself could accelerate the path to the economic world that we read about in Revelation 13.
One of the things Saudi Arabia stated publicly that they want to get into the cryptocurrency.
Of course
market.
they do.
And the AI market, by the way.
Of course they do. They have to get into the cryptocurrency market, because if they don't get into the cryptocurrency market, they don't have an exit path for what BRICS is doing. And that's the bigger issue, because they have to provide an exit path with their activities with respect to OPEC true function. It's complicated. The only way they can do that is that way. That'll be the only way they'll be able to do that, because there has to be a broad equalization of the currency that's being utilized that's tied still directly to the dollar without it being officially tied to the dollar. It's the only way to work.
Okay.
Besides, when you start looking at what we call the petrodollar is another fancy way of saying Saudi Arabia's hidden path to being able to buy U.S. treasuries. Okay? And the bond market right now, people say, is softening. Actually, the bond market is actually strengthening. It's an underlying current that's happening right now. And so the value of the dollar will increase after the effects of the past quantitative easing mechanisms dies. So you're in essence, the inflation as a result of printing dollars will eventually equalize based on the changes that are being made with respect to the tariffing that Trump is doing. And as a result of that, you could end up beginning to see what will be a path to a national, which would eventually become an international currency.
So what should I start investing in right now?
I'm not giving anybody investment advice. I can talk to you privately about that. I'm not gonna go online.
Not that I have anything to invest. I don't know. Anybody seen any tourists in Israel lately?
I will tell you this. Don't do it as a result of me saying this. You're easily 3 years away from doing it if you ever want to do it. But right now, man, the stock market is so fun to be investing in right now, especially when it crashes. It's just there's so many great opportunities to make a whole bunch of money in the stock market right now. It's great. It's like entertaining. It's so easy.
Let's talk about that later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll show you later, but it'll make you laugh.
James, I think we should talk maybe a little bit later this week after Trump comes back.
Yep.
And see how this works out.
Yep. Look, just real quick, just for me, but don't read it. Just like read it in your mind, but don't say it out. That's a 1-day return right there.
Whoa.
From trade activity.
Wow.
That's cool. How easy it is in the stock market. I mean, if you know what you're doing. I mean, like, but don't. That's not to be read out loud. Anyway, let's take some more questions. There's at least a few.
Give me a good one.
Okay. And the question about Trump's purple tie. Like, I don't know if I could. I really don't understand that one. Okay. Yes. Here's a question. Bartjan, did you hear that America delivered bunker busters to Israel last week? Monkey said that on Tom yesterday. So my guess is when Monkey recorded that with Tom, Monkey recorded that probably 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody out there that makes a comment about plane activity and what that airplane activity is doing, that I would trust, it's Monkey. So if Monkey says that that's happening, I would bet the farm that it's probably happening.
I could add on to it was Israel Katz that said today that the Israeli military is been called up, retrained, and are poised to go And one of the things that he added is we have the needed munitions to do what we need to do.
Yep.
And if you're talking about bunker busters, 9 of them were used this morning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Literally. Somebody heard those bunker busters this morning.
Yeah, and Monkey's no idiot when it comes to that stuff. Like Monkey knows exactly what he's seeing. Funny thing about Monkey is there's a lot of imitators out there, but Monkey has the knowledge of how supply chains work because he worked in it for a lot of years, and he can read a chart like nobody's business. So if he's looking at flight data, and he's not even looking at ADSB data. Yes, I mean he is seeing some ADSB data, but he's actually looking at data that's being produced in real time by the folks over at Skyglass, which, by the way, is a world-class tool to be using if you're looking at the skies. So if Monkey sees all of those, I think he was saying that, and I could be wrong, I think he was saying something like, see, there was a bunch of C-17s coming in or something like that. Somebody told me that. I didn't hear it, but somebody told me that. Then that means Israel is getting supplied. Yeah. And by the way, that actually makes sense with what we know from the news.
By the way,
because we owe Israel. We're delivering stuff to Israel right now that the Biden regime kept back from them, even though they paid for it.
That we might have been able to use before.
Oh, yeah.
Bunker busters, by the way, just so people know, is that it's a bomb that gets, dropped from an airplane that goes so deep before it explodes that it manages to go into the side of mountains. Now, here's the problem. A lot of people don't realize that the tunnels in Gaza or the facilities in Iran are deeper than one bunker blaster can go into. Yeah. So what they do is they needle them one after the other, meaning one goes in and another goes on top of that. So one of them goes in, makes a crater, another goes on top of that. So sometimes I've heard that they drop, and when they got Nasrallah, they dropped 6 of them, one on top of the other.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry. I just,
That's how you blast.
Mess around and find out.
That's how you blast a bunker.
Mess around and find out. That's the ultimate definition. Okay, yeah. So, if Monkey says that, then I'm certain that's exactly what happened. He sees it well before anybody else. I mean, he's been right about things that people kicked and screamed and said, "No, you're wrong. You're crazy." Nord Stream 2 is probably one of my favorite observations that I've watched Monkey make. It kind of made me laugh. He proved them all wrong.
Did you see what Dan's asking there?
Wait, let me see. What are we looking at?
Right there, right.
Yeah, down for cooking. Is that the one you're seeing?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I saw another prophecy channel that you believe. Wait, I saw on another prophecy channel that you believe the Pope will usher in a new golden age of Christianity. What does that mean, and why do you believe that if you do? What? Don, can you do me a favor? Can you tell me what prophecy channel said that? Because
I don't see a golden age of Christianity on the horizon right now.
No. If you
might be wrong.
Don, if you can tell me what prophecy page said that I said that, that would be great. Because I'd love to address that. Because that
What do you, let's segue in from that. What do you see happening with Christianity now with all of this dynamic? A new pope, a new administration. I mean, how is this playing out? The wokeism is being, I'm going to say, contained or sidelined, for lack of a better word. I mean, how do you see this playing out?
It's complicated. There's a lot of kids, very, very young kids right now, that are running to the Catholic Church at a pace we've never seen before.
Interesting.
They're doing that because they're conflating the liturgy of the Catholic Church with what they're actually looking for, and that is people who have moral clarity and a willingness to speak about what is biblical, and they're not finding it in what I would call the Protestant church right now.
Really?
Lots of pastors have multiple problems. They have the disease of laziness that keeps them from studying and understanding the things that they're talking about. They will not say things that will create ripples because they don't want to lose their reputations, their income, their whatever you might want to call it. They're more concerned about getting everything right in the eyes of the people that watch them, and they have abandoned the principles that the Bible gives us in good, solid leadership. So the young kids, I think they're calling them the Gen Zers, are looking at this in pastors today saying, I came here so that I can find direction and moral clarity. And what I'm actually looking at is one of you trying to be one of me. So I'm going to a place where I could get, I'm going there because at least they're so far outside of my box that maybe I can find through the liturgy that I'm seeing
Gotcha.
the consistency that I'm looking for. There is something that is happening right now that is creating a hunger and a vacuum within the hearts of these kids to want to know the Lord.
I'm maybe add something that I feel. With the fall of wokeism that we are seeing in progressivism and how do you say, critical theory and all of it, there is which was a kind of religion, and it's fallen. I mean, anybody who was a practicer of the religion of wokeism, the elections in the United States and other things that have happened have shown them that was wrong. But there's still a vacuum, a void right now for people who need to fill in that sense of direction. And I think the church has a good window of opportunity right now to connect to some of these people who saw wokeism as a solution and now realize that it's not. And I think that's something that we need to think about now.
Yeah, listen, it's a big thing. Our kids are a wreck, bro. Okay, Gen Z is a mess, and actually, quite frankly, let me back up. All the mess started with Gen Xers. That's when it really started getting really bad. Okay,
James, do you know I'm a baby boomer?
Yeah. I know. It's lovely.
Today I heard something new. What's the new generation called? It's called Gen Alpha. That's Gen Z. We're gonna back. Okay. So they call themselves Gen Alphas.
Okay. Dale said something. Okay, hold on a second. Dale just found something out for me.
There we go.
Here. Oh, okay. Well, so they're talking about Charlie Kirk's statement. I actually do not think anything is wrong with Charlie Kirk's statement here. Okay? Let me read it to you. I've never seen this before, but Dale sent it to me, and I guess one of these prophecy guys is putting down Charlie Kirk's statement, but the thing that these prophecy guys, I don't know who it is, but the one thing that those prophecy guys do not have in common with me is I know Charlie personally. I not only talk to Charlie on a regular basis, but Charlie Kirk has a dedication to the Word of God that is better than an overwhelming amount of even pastors that I know.
Oh, no. I mean, you hear his discussions.
His love for the Word is amazing. And Charlie and I, at least once a day, will text each other. And most of the time, I don't initiate the text. Charlie does. He sends me a verse that God is ministering to him with. That's how dedicated Charlie Kirk is. So Charlie Kirk says this, and I can understand why he would say this because I know Charlie. I know Charlie well. He says, we talk about a golden age in America. I am an evangelical Christian, but I pray the new pope will help usher in a new golden age of Christianity. If the new pope defends the faith, what's wrong with defending the faith?
Okay.
Defends the West, defends biology and eternal truths, I will be his biggest fan. In other words, if the Pope becomes a biblical man, I'll love him for it.
The Pope teaches the Bible.
Is it likely that's going to happen? No, come on. And Charlie knows that. But what's wrong with Charlie Kirk making that statement?
No, there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with Charlie making that statement. He's praying for something like, wouldn't we all want to pray for that? Charlie is praying that the Pope won't be woke. That's what he's praying for. He's praying that the Pope will do something completely different.
Pope woke.
I'm here to just say this. I love you, Charlie Kirk. And I'm proud of my little brother, very proud of my little brother, for saying that he prays that the Pope won't go south.
Yep.
So Brad Bunn says this, and I don't know who this person is that I'm talking about, but Brad says, bro, James, another thing that you don't have in common with the person you are mentioning, you're not talking about Charlie Kirk. I think he's talking about the guy that was blasting Charlie Kirk. Bro, James, another thing you don't have in common with the person you are mentioning is you actually know the Bible. Mm-hmm. The guy running down Charlie Kirk doesn't know the Bible at all. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yep, that makes sense.
That to me is that's hilarious. And you know the funny thing about that is too, whoever that guy is, I will never mention his name because I'm never going to give him the legitimacy that he doesn't deserve. And I don't know who he is. I have no idea who the guy is.
So what are we looking out for this week?
Man, there's so many things to say about this.
I'm curious to see how China's going to react.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how Putin's going to react to all of this dynamic.
Should I make some predictions?
Okay.
Just this is, I'm not saying thus saith the Lord. I'm not,
Thank goodness.
I'm not doing that.
Thank goodness, because, then, the halo would, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let me make some predictions. China's going to falter unless Trump gives them an opportunity.
You think he's going to throw them a life vest or whatever?
If he gains a benefit out of it, yes. If he gains a benefit out of it, yes.
Might China push the Taiwan button because they have nothing to lose?
They don't have the ability to push the Taiwan button. They don't have the ability for direct engagement.
By the way, I was watching the Houthi missiles get through the Israeli defense system. I mean, the one that landed in Ben Gurion Airport. Mm-hmm. And I thought about this, okay? Taiwan is that far away. I don't know. We can check that from the Three Gorges Dam. And if a ballistic missile hit that dam, it would completely flood the whole basin, which includes Wuhan and a couple of major, and I mean, they can't take that chance.
Well, but see, you would understand this because, in my opinion, and I'll put myself out there in saying this, I think you're one of the most brilliant military minds that relates to anything geopolitics Middle East. You're the smartest guy I know in that arena that I talk about. And I respect you on so many levels over that.
There's a but coming in here.
No. I'm saying that because I think you'll understand what I'm saying. China could destroy Taiwan that way, but then China loses the benefit that they're trying to gain by taking over Taiwan. So they're not going to destroy Taiwan.
No, I'm talking about the other way around. If China lands on Taiwan, puts enough forces there, and actually conquers Taiwan, 3 ballistic missiles hitting the Three Gorges Dam, okay, in China would completely devastate China. That would be that would be more than a nuclear bomb on China.
Again, yes, you're a zillion % right. I didn't know that about that specific area. But the thing is that,
check it out.
How in the world would China be able to even facilitate protecting themselves from that kind of vulnerability by poking the bear? I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. And again, the only thing that came through my mind is if the Houthis can get through Israeli air defense, which is probably the best in the world, and one of the missiles did get through. Okay.
Yeah.
Then China will not be able to defend that asset. And if you go into the internet and go look at the Three Gorges Dam and what would happen if that thing kind of blew up catastrophically, I mean, half of China would be wiped into the sea, literally into the sea. And I mean, I'm thinking that I don't know if that's even an option. If you can't defend from that, how do you make sure that doesn't happen?
I don't think they're gonna pick that. I don't think they're gonna pick that thing. By the way, can I just make a quick comment? You guys in the chat that are talking about this guy that brought up the whole Charlie Kirk thing, like, I don't know him. I don't know who he is. So let's just drop it. Okay. Like, for me, all I know is I'm defending a dear friend of mine and a man that I respect immensely and a person that I can personally vouch for, a person that I've had a hand in teaching the Bible to. Okay. Charlie's a great guy. Okay. And I'm not going to let anybody speak negatively of him because he doesn't deserve it. Charlie is a man of God who stands in one of the darkest places that you can possibly imagine. He's a good example. He's a better example than an overwhelming majority of the pastors that he talks to. So I'm just going to make that clear. And I see nothing wrong with Charlie praying that the Pope won't be woke. I see nothing wrong with Charlie praying that the Pope will actually have biblical precedent for his view. Nothing wrong with that. God bless him. So, down for cooking. God bless you. I'm glad that you answered the question. Or that you asked the question. Like, I'm super, super glad that you did that because it's important, to address these things. When you ask questions like this, it's good to gain clarity. But I just wanted to make that very, very clear. Okay, what do you think is going to happen with Israel, David?
I have a feeling Israel's going to sign off on this agreement. What are you laughing about?
I know I'm laughing at that. I mean, it kind of gets me giddy.
Well,
because the other thing that it does is it adds legitimacy to Israel bombing the living snot out of Iran if anything moves forward. Because what happens if the Houthis become more aggressive?
Oh, the Houthis will.
And then what happens when Hamas gets emboldened?
Well, here's the problem, and I'm watching the whole Houthi thing. I don't know if you know, but Israel told Yemen, do not walk into any of the major ports because it's just a matter of time. We're going to bomb their ports out of existence. But again, the rocket did go over his head, meaning no matter what we do, you're not going to be able to completely stop the ability of them to fire ballistic missiles.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, born again, let me just simply say this. I just want to make a quick comment. If an evangelical is lining up with Catholicism as it sits today at any level, you're not an evangelical. Okay, you're not a Protestant. So, sorry, you're not lining up with Catholicism as it sits right now in this moment, or probably as it's ever sat, is never going to be you being a Protestant evangelical. You're not. You're not an Orthodox Christian.
A Bible reading Christian.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm going to make myself very, very clear here. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Let's say he does it. Hook, line, and sinker, it's done. Finished. The deal is good. What happens the first time one of those guys act out of character? Does Israel act unilaterally with the blessing of America? Or does America act bilaterally with Israel?
Okay, maybe I'm going to bring the example of 2005 when Israel decided to give back the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians.
Yeah, but Sharon, we all know Sharon made a stupid mistake with that.
Yeah, but
as a matter of fact, didn't Bibi quit his position in the government over
there
Sharon?
Was a whole balagan. But one of the things I do remember them saying that if the Palestinians fire one rocket out of there, we'll blow them into smithereens, and they fired hundreds of thousands.
Yep.
And I think Israel cannot act. I think almost cannot act unilaterally. Is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. With anything right now in the current situation, and I think that's part of the problem. One of the things that I'm hearing, and I think Gaddis said something about it, that we need to wean ourselves off of American funding to Israel.
Who said this?
I'm not sure if it was, but somebody on the level with Gadi. It might have been not Wilf or somebody else who said we need to wean ourselves. Our problem is our dependency on American funding and provision, And I think that's.
But it's not that simple.
I know.
Because
No.
Israel, when we say we need to wean ourselves off of American funding, the one aspect of this that most people don't know is that American funding doesn't come to Israel the way it comes to lots of other countries.
Yep.
It comes to Israel by virtue of the fact that America buys from Israel a whole bunch of things that it doesn't produce on its own. So
I'm young enough to remember, though, that in the 1970s and 1980s, Israel was being ostracized by a lot of the world. For instance, the main car that you would see on the streets in Israel was a Subaru. Now, a Subaru is a terrible car, okay? But Honda and Nissan and any other, the Asian car manufacturers weren't exporting to Israel. I mean, I grew up in a world with no peanut butter because, well, Israelis are not crazy about it, but there was a trade embargo on a lot of different things.
Butters. How can you live life without peanut butter?
Well, I mean, we used to bring
I hope you eat a
butter.
bunch of it now.
My dad, no, I try to stay off the peanut butter. I mean, it's but my dad worked for TWA,
I'm praying for you, bro.
and we used to bring kind of carts of, boxes of peanut butter when we came back from the States and give them out to friends. But again, it's a different
Good for
world.
you. I'd be a peanut butter dealer myself.
Illegal peanut butter deal on the corners.
Oh, man.
Okay.
It's interesting to see where we will be when we have this conversation next week.
Very, very.
It's going to be. I'm waiting for the next twist and turn, and I'm telling you, they're going to be consequential twists and turns.
Well, what would you do if he's going to land in Turkey? What if you do if he gets off a plane in Istanbul?
I cannot imagine he's going to be in Istanbul. By the way, there's been some conflicts. The article that I read to everybody in the video that I made yesterday, it's going to get released in a few days. Is the article said that the president was talking about going to Turkey to seeing the capital city, or to going to the capital city to meet with these guys. But then the same article said that they're going to be meeting in Istanbul. So where is it? Is it the capital city or is it Istanbul?
Well, now everybody knows that Istanbul isn't the capital of Turkey.
Yeah,
right?
but everybody says it is. I don't get that, man. They don't like Ankara. They're both different. They're completely different spots. But is it going to be at Ankara or is it going to be in Istanbul?
I don't know.
Strategically, Istanbul makes more sense. Obviously.
Yeah, no, I mean, I doubt if there's any reason to go anywhere. I mean, what's the capital city of Brazil, I think? It's not real. It's Brasilia, somewhere out in the middle of the jungle somewhere.
But I don't know where it is. In the mind, isn't it like north central Brazil?
Somewhere, but I mean, Rio de Janeiro makes sense. But,
No. That's everybody thinks it's real, but it's not. Yeah.
So we'll see.
No, Brazilia.
Brasilia.
Yeah.
They actually made a hole in the jungle and put a capital there.
Yeah. But where is it geographically? It's north central.
I think it's in the part of more or less. I don't know. I don't have a place on. I don't have a
picture
visual
it in my mind.
It's
weird. One of the languages we translate in is Portuguese.
Really?
Brazilian Portuguese.
How's that going, by the way? The
very
AI
good.
translation.
Yeah, very good. We've worked very, very hard to get it down.
I'm waiting to hear him speak Hebrew. That's what I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah, man. I want to, David. One of these days.
Well.
It's like Arabic. Arabic. I can speak Arabic, understand Arabic, all of that, no problem. But I just don't feel confident to speak at the level in Arabic that I do in English. In other words, like I won't teach in Arabic. It's very hard for me to teach in Arabic. Very hard to kind of,
Well, I would say this. My dad taught most of his adult life, and his Hebrew was good, but was always with an American accent. And he did it anyway. I mean, it was weird. Yeah, I remember as a kid being embarrassed. Okay, because I mean, I'll give you a couple of words. So you can say in Ivrit, אפשר לדבר עברית וזה נשמע ככה, or אפשר לדבר עברית and נשמע ככה.
Boy, that is super discernible right there. That is very discernible.
I used to be embarrassed that my dad speaks Hebrew with a very thick American accent.
But that's like that's harsh. Did he really speak that way?
Well, not that bad, but yeah, we used to laugh about his accent. But he did not give up speaking, and he taught for many, many years. I'm trying to give you a.
Seems like your dad was a pretty amazing man.
He was. I miss him. I
Yeah.
miss him.
You got a good family, bro.
Oh, yeah. And me and Christy spent some time with the family this fall.
Yeah, that must have been lovely. How's Joel doing? How's your sister?
Okay, my sister's okay. I mean, they're having a youth conference with 500 kids.
It's
this
amazing,
weekend.
man. In Israel,
And I'm saying
it's like-
500 kids. I grew up if we had 30 kids at a youth camp, we were all excited. Well,
And-
there's
yeah,
new
and if-
kids on the
and-
block.
And if you want to support Netivah, it's such a beautiful ministry.
Yep.
You can do it at Gihon Springs, and we have the
Yep.
link there. You support Netivah.
By the way, we did a couple of very interesting. Did I tell you about the meeting the widows and
Yeah.
meeting the
So
dog
sweet.
people? It was
So
It was
sweet.
kind of amazing. So yeah, Gihon Springs is doing a lot of work right now in Israel, and that's part of what we're doing. So we came back with a lot of directions, and we're deep into it right now.
Oh, we got it wrong. They're telling us that it's Sao Paulo, which I didn't think so.
Sao
I
Paulo.
thought it was Brasilia.
Okay,
Oh, that's interesting.
we stand corrected. Thank you.
Boy. Wait, don't we sound like a bunch of ignorant people when
Yeah.
we're like, it's Brasilia? Well, I know I haven't gotten Middle Eastern capitals wrong.
Not yet. Not yet.
But hey, listen, if it is Sao Paulo, then it's the area that I was thinking about.
So are the sandwiches still out there?
Oh yeah,
Let's
lots of
do
good.
it.
But it's going to be
Come
out
on.
there for 24 hours.
So remind them.
Let's go. All right. One quick thing before we do close, we want everybody to know law enforcement officers in Southern California, come to Calvary Chapel, Signal Hill. We're going to take care of you. Okay? I love you guys. God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight. David, you want to pray for us?
Yes. Avinu Shabashamayim, this is a critical intersection in the path that you're making through the Middle East and through the world. We just pray that your will be done as earth as it is in heaven, and that we will understand and just we understand how much we don't understand and how much everything is in your hands. And just for that, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And we pray for Israel, and we pray for our president, and we pray for our leadership. Give them the wisdom to discern and to understand and to line up in the correct manner. And may all of this be for your glory. And we pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. We love you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. If something breaks over the next few days, we'll go live. Okay? Even if I have Dave come and do it remotely, we'll do it and we'll talk about it. Okay? Love you guys. God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight.